Hi everyone, welcome to the website's call. So usually MeshMate Aditya hosts this call, but I think he has an unstable internet connection today. So I'll be doing it. It's sort of my first time hosting this call, so forgive me if I go wrong anyway. So we usually begin our meetings with introducing all our newest members. So do we have anyone? Is Pranav Singh, is this your first time attending this call?
No, actually, I've already joined several times. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I don't think we have any newcomers yet, so we can start. Um,
Yes, no newcomers today, but just an unstable meshmate, I think is what I heard. Aditya is, oh, it's his internet connection that's unstable. Okay, I got it.
uh, can you guys see my screen?
Kind of, yeah, I think, yeah, it's coming up. We can see that you've shared the Layer5 website's meeting minutes, but the Zoom window is in front of it, I think.
Yeah.
That pesky Zoom window, and it's always in the way. Nice.
Okay. So the first topic is from meshri.io, Anshu. I don't think he's on the call today, but check out his PR. So he has fixed the dissimilarity of the shapes over here. So this PR, is this good to go, Aditya?
Nope, not yet. So I think Anshu was suggesting to remove the word LFX, and since the logo already says LFX, so he was suggesting that we keep the logo. Could you scroll down a little bit? Yeah, so he was suggesting we do something like this, because right now what is happening is because of the logo, and since we write LFX next to it, it has LFX written twice, and the logo is what I had asked him to do was to center the logo with the text, but he couldn't do that. I'm not sure why. So this is what he was suggesting.
In this case, this blue X is not very clearly visible with this background.
Yeah, but that's the logo, I guess. I don't think there's an alternative for that. He was suggesting that we write mentorship, like not LFX, have the LFX logo and then have LFX written next to it again.
Okay.
Yeah. I suppose that's actually, there's a couple of things that are maybe a little bit off. So one is that it says GSOD 2020, which is like, well, probably listing the year is not quite what we want to do, because we, and then, yeah, I suppose that if he's suggesting that we write the words or the letters LFX and not the word mentorship, that falls in line with the rest, it becomes symmetric with the rest. So that's probably a good suggestion. And yeah, Debopriya's point that the blue and the green don't really mix. Yeah, no, they don't. We could, it is an SVG, that icon, that LFX. So we could go whiten it. That's at that small risk to offending LFX folks. They're not paying attention to this site, even though Meshri is the #1 LFX project. I don't think that they're coming over and looking at it. So yeah, if anyone were inclined to change it from blue to white, that would probably be okay. So Aditya, I don't know if you want to make some of those comments on Debopriya's behalf.
Yeah, okay. But we surely want to change, like tweak the logo, right? Because I don't remember, like I was, because I was working on the icons on MeshMap, I read on some site that we do not appreciate you tweaking with our icons.
Totally.
So,
Most of them don't. Like it's generally a no-no. They don't have a brand kit like the LFX. Like they don't offer up a range of icons that work or logos that work. While we're on the call, I'll go look to see real quick, because yeah, you generally don't want to, you generally want to adhere to what they're asking you to do. I'll look while we're on the call and see if we can find one that they do approve of, or that they do have as an alternative. Because the other alternative is to just, you see the first box before the L, like the other alternative is to just use that. That's more of like the Linux Foundation logo. And we could switch to that, because the other ones are just logos as well. So yeah, I'll go have a look.
okay.
We can, I think, move on to the next topic. So that is the topics collection for Layer5. So I have an existing PI where I'm updating all the articles here. So like he said, I have to tweak it a little. So I have been doing that. So most of the chapters are up. Just the last one, and the fourth chapter, the WebAssembly part, you had uploaded some of the articles initially. So if there's anything missing, I'll add it in there itself, and the other topics in the form of articles. So
nice. Wow, yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I think we have quite a few articles right now. I just have to find the images for the thumbnails, because right now it's all the same and it's all service mesh related. So I could not think of separate images for everyone, and just a little bit of more tweaking so that it's completely different from the book, but yeah, similar. So it's almost done. Just a little bit of work is left.
Oh, that's pretty great. I mean, you hit the deadline. I was going to say we hit the deadline.
You do have a lot of reviewing to do, because there are a lot of topics.
Yeah. No, this is good. I wonder, the longer that we look at this, the topics area, like I really like how the URL is layer5io/topics/ like the URL structure is nice for that. But when we consider the range of topics that we might have, and if we consider that maybe we would, I guess, I wonder if it isn't more aptly called resources, not topics.
I was wondering the same, because we can also add tutorials and videos later on. So we can have a separate section for that, and topics only for articles.
Yeah. Now, why didn't I like that? Like here's right. I think we should probably do that. We should probably change the name from topics to resources. First of all, it's just easier for us to speak to, and easier, like as you go to explain it to other people, I think it is a bit easier to comprehend what you're talking about when you say, hey, we've got a bunch of resources we want to put out there. They can be on different topics, and yeah, they can be long written articles that withstand the test of time, and so they're not necessarily dated or don't necessarily have a specific author assigned, and those can be of different types. Like it could be a tutorial or kind of a walkthrough, a how-to. It could be just an explanation. It could be a bunch of different things. Like I think that makes sense when you say topics, not resources. I'm sorry, when you say resources, not topics. I'm only like a quarter of the way into my cup of coffee, so it's pretty tough. We did the whole like fall back an hour. Anyway. Here's why I've withheld up until this conversation. And so while in general, we do desire for, and by the way, Pranav, I'll just say, like, it was wonderful that you had your webcam on. It was really nice to see you. So if you have the bandwidth for it, like, you know, don't be shy, like, please. But
Yeah.
So we've got some common goals at Layer5 and with the projects and on Layer5.io. Like, so a couple of things that some of us haven't heard in a while, or maybe some of us have never heard, and that is, and we've got a few different websites, a few different properties. Now, each of those properties, those websites, they need to represent each project as well as they can. There's 300 something people who've done commits and PRs to Meshry, like Meshry.io. It should look 300 people's effort worth, or like, it should look as good as it can. And so great. And then you've got the Nighthawk one, and you've got the SMP one, and you've got the doc site, and so Layer5.io, it's a representation of all of those. So gosh, it should look, really good, or like it should be, and I think that it does. Like, we overhauled it, it was something else before. We overhauled it. It's running Gatsby. It's doing, all of you we're looking at something that we're looking at the entire thing that Debopriya has done, but like that call to action for the discussion forum, that's from her, and there's a lot of things in here from various people. I guess okay. So good. So that's part of the point of what we're trying to do. We try to make this look as good as we can. We try to make each of them represent the projects well. The projects are trying to help people understand this technology, and so too is Layer5.io. Okay. If no one knows about the projects, then they could be really awesome, and it kind of doesn't matter because nobody's, and so part of people finding the projects is, sure, people giving talks or people tweeting about it or exchanging with others. Part of it too is just when someone searches for how to write WebAssembly filters in Rust or whatever that Google points them to these resources. So that search engine optimization has been why it is that I liked the URL structure topics, because it felt a little less generic, a little more specific. It isn't technically, like the word topic and the word resource, both pretty generic, like both. It felt like if you navigate to any number of other websites, a lot of times they'll have a /resources. They'll have, and it's doesn't look too dissimilar from what we have. Like, there's a way of browsing the categories, kind of browsing the different resources. But it always felt like it was just marketing fluff. Like, there wasn't a lot of real either engineering, deep content. And so that was mostly my logic, was like, hey, do we get discounted in terms of search engine optimization for using something like /resources, or like eventually, if this is, while the community and the topics might grow beyond the realm of service mesh, at least initially, we should end up having a set of articles about Linkerd, and then a set about console, and a set about each one of the meshes. And so when you think about site structure and people who might come to navigate the site, it's like, well, so do those topics about troubleshooting console, or how to get started with console, or external gateways in console, like whatever the topics are, like, from a site structure perspective, would that have been better under a /topics? Like, what are the topics? Well, the topic is service mesh. So it's like Layer5.io /topics, service mesh, console, troubleshooting. and maybe there's a number of troubleshooting articles under there or something. Like it seemed to flow pretty well, as opposed to like Layer 5 IO generic resources or like resources, which in my mind is like generic crap slash service. And it does, I don't think it makes a difference necessarily. Like it is, you guys ever hear the phrase when you're trying to take a round peg and put it into a square hole? It's like the topics is like trying to shove a round peg into a square hole. It's like it kind of fits, but not like, whereas resources is like it fits. And so having said all of that, I feel a lot better now that I said that, so we can go to resources and and now I don't feel
Can
bad.
we do something like resources / topics / service mesh, something of that sort?
Yeah. Well, right. As you think about the URL structure, say it out loud again. Like, were you saying the URL structure, or were you saying like the site, the heading title?
Like what I was thinking is, first we direct to a resources page, and then we probably give a list of all the topics, probably service meshes or console or Linkerd. And then when a person navigates through each topic, we have the set of articles for that topic. So the URL could be resources / topics / whatever the general topic they go to. And the structure would be in a similar manner. You come to a resources homepage, which has everything, which like the generic information, and then a separate place for topics. Something of that sort.
Yeah. Let me think about that. Like, for sure, much of the majority of what you just said is that's true. We should do that. Like you'll have this higher level area to go to, like this resources, and then there's categories of things, and then there might be subcategories of things. Like yeah, for sure. And you're trying to salvage the word topics to help make me feel better, which is good. And yeah, I guess part of that question is, can we have, while this is one ginormous collection, resources, or eventually will be, from within Gatsby, can we have sub collections that are underneath that major one? Like, we can, right? Like, if it's just, it'd be more of like, instead of having a sub collection, we would just have, would it be subcategories, or how would that be?
Yeah. Something like this on the events page, where there's events, workshops, meetups. So maybe something on that.
Yeah, to do totally. If you click on workshops, like, and then if you click on a specific one, what does the URL structure look like? Event, okay.
Community events.
Okay. So that's not quite as sophisticated as what you were suggesting. If you go back and go to a different one, it's like if you go to meetups, and so this is conceptually like it's a different thing, right? It's not a, now here's the problem is the URL structure is still just the same. It's just community events. That doesn't mean that. Yeah.
They just filter it, but it's not visible on the URL.
Debopriya, could you go to learning paths and see how we navigate there? Because we first go to learn/learning paths and then go to a learning path. So we're in mastering service mesh developers, and then if you go inside, so this is what we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
This is how it would be. Yep.
Yeah. And then if you go into one of the chapters, like this has got a pretty long structure to it. So, oh, look at that. So we're on /istio. Like you clicked on getting started, but it inserted /istio. And if you click to switch to, yeah. Cool. Okay. So, so for one, I think that I should stop being a baby and we should get off of topics and just call it resources. And if it ever comes to an issue in the future, like, hey, we can still switch in the future. It's not like it has to be a permanent decision. In the future, if we do switch away from resources to a different word like solutions or topics, that we'll have to set up some redirects, but we can do that. So if we switch from topics, just the word topics, to the word resources, and then continue from there, I think we'll be in a pretty decent spot. If you go back to the WebAssembly article and we take a look at the URL structure, so on that initial article, just how to write a WebAssembly filter, it has a topic, it has a category assigned and it has a tag or two assigned. So the category shows up in the URL, at least how we have it structured now. So it's under how to, and then it has those two tags. Okay, if you click either of the tags, it will do a search for any articles that have those same tags. And if you click on one of those articles, it won't have it in the, it won't be in the URL structure. And so yeah, I'm definitely overthinking this. Like, we should just switch to resources. When we get there, like if we have like 25 topics, 25 entries, or like, articles or videos or whatever it is on Istio and console, and we have 10 of these things we're tracking. So we have, 25 here, 25 here, 25. So we have 250 pieces of content now. And then we start writing about WebAssembly. So we have like 25. So we have like, over time, if we got to like 300, 400, 500, we might try to achieve that sub URL structure, like the learning paths one that we were doing. The SEO on it is fantastic, because it's like, when someone types in, Istio service mesh troubleshooting, that's what they typed into so Google. So by the way, so I'm not an expert on anything that we do here, amazingly enough. And so if you couldn't tell already, but I pretend to know a couple of things, and at least we can all learn together that for search engine optimization, Google's like the engine we want to, the engine that we want to work well with. So, okay, so what do they care what the URL structure is? Okay, well, or like, does it care? It's like, okay, well, what are we trying to achieve? Actually, when you look at it, so how a page ranks in Google, do any of you all know, or do you have a sense of what factors come into play? Does anybody want to educate the rest of us?
As much as I know, it's the relevance to keywords, like how much of the content matches with what is searched. That is the order.
So like site relevance, like how relevant is what someone has typed in, how relevant is it to the page itself, to your site? Like page relevance or domain relevance. Any other factors? There are just a couple of others. And so, and they, I mean, as you might have guessed. So while Google doesn't publish its algorithm or its algorithms, because it's like a long list of things that they, their page rank, but they talk a lot about it. And actually the way that the algorithms work, they change over time, in part because the web has changed over time. In part because people tried to game the system. So they put in additional considerations so that people can't just have a page full of 9,000 copies of the word WebAssembly and then have it rank higher. Like they'll count that as a negative at some point. And so, yeah, so in terms of like search engine this word SEO and like search engine optimization is sort of a generic term now for this stuff that we're talking about. So in terms of how a page ranks, there's a few things. How fast is the site? Like how fast does the page load? That's a consideration. It's like, why was that? No, that's a consideration. Like it's part of the user experience. They want to bring you the best resources the most quickly. Okay, fine. So we have to optimize speed. Okay, fine. Relevance, like Debopriya was just saying, like, hey, they search for WebAssembly. Does this thing even say WebAssembly? More than that, it's like, okay, fine, that page does, but the domain itself, does it have relevance to WebAssembly? And it's like part of the consideration. So also, maybe it does, maybe it has like 20,000 pages that say WebAssembly on every page. Great, except does it have any authority? Like, has anyone linked it to it and said, oh, that's some good stuff? Or, and that's in large part like where domain authority will come from, is like backlinks, others pointing to your stuff saying, those factors weigh in quite a bit. It's like, well, when you're figuring out relevance, it's like, yeah, it said WebAssembly like 40 times, but it actually said it in small font down in the footer down at the bottom where you couldn't really read it because it wasn't important. Like what was important was at the top of the page is like, why a baby will throw up. It's like, right, is it in the title of the page? It's like, that has nothing to do with, so the relevance to WebAssembly is like, but if it's in your H1 on the page, like I think that's the H1, like, oh, well, that must be a large part of what this page is about. It's about WebAssembly. So, okay, so that's relevance counts there. Another aspect of this is like, well, the URL structure, did it have WebAssembly in the URL? Well, shoot, it must, that's again, like it must have something to do with WebAssembly if it's that important, if it's way up in there, okay. And so if you look at, if to Debopriya's point, as she was exploring, if we have this structure, resources / service meshes / Istio / troubleshooting, and then we have the title of this article says how to provide a static IP address to your AWS EOB Istio gateways, or like something like it didn't say troubleshooting in the title of the page, but it did say troubleshooting in the URL, and it did say service mesh in the URL, and it did say Istio. So what I'm saying is sites or URL structure, plays into this as well. Like if someone had typed into the thing, like troubleshooting Istio service mesh, it's like, oh, boom, Istio service mesh was like right in the URL structure. And then again in the title, and then, so that's all helpful. I'll tell you guys, or you all this, is that, well, there's in part like a reason why you all are implicitly familiar with clickbait, which is, I don't know, I won't give specific examples of clickbait, but sometimes you'll see them as like, you'll see like, oh, 5 ways to lose weight today. You're like, oh my God, it's like 10 ways to lose weight today. Actually, do you know what? The 5 ways is more often clicked than the 10 ways. Like, was it 6 ways, 7, 8, 9, 10? Like there's studies done on this. And unless my memory isn't serving me well, it's like anywhere between 5 and 10, you're doing good. And actually that type of a title, X ways to something, or X things you didn't know, those rank high, like those get clicked on. The other ones get clicked on quite a bit is the how to something, how-tos and those listicles. That's what they're called, the X ways to do such and such. It's called a listicle. And while you might feel slimy writing it in the title, like you're trying to get people, it's just bait for people to click on, like it kind of works as well. So it's a catch-22. Like you have to set aside your moral values as you do it, and then you publish it. So I've totally digressed into like SEO, but the part of the reason that I went into this is like, look, this discussion about SEO isn't an evil, like, how do we make sure that anyone that searches for WebAssembly lands here? It's like, that would never happen. And it isn't an evil thing. putting ads in people's faces and stuff. Like, we're trying to help get these open source projects out there and people to learn. And we're trying to learn ourselves. Like, as Debopriya is putting out a lot of this content, she's over time just kind of absorbing some of what's in here, and so too are the rest of you as you're reviewing it and reading through it. Some of you are just improving your English skills just as a generic thing. Some of you are hopefully taking away some things about SEO today, things that I know to be true. Like, I will tell you when I don't know what I'm talking about. In this case, like those things are all true. Like, those aren't debatable things. So that's the backdrop to part of getting these out. So here's another issue is like, well, okay, why aren't we just using the blogs? Like, you can put a webinar into a blog and a video into a blog and a blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, that's good. Let's do that. An issue becomes, so we put in some blood, sweat, and tears into a nice blog post. And then about, a year goes by or 2 years, and maybe the content is still just as relevant now as it was then, which would be great. It's a well-written blog, timeless, content. But what we're telling Google is, this is 2 years old. So if you're finding something else somewhere else that's newer, you might want to give that to users. Oh, okay, well, that's too bad, because actually that didn't matter. So should we just go back into the blog post and change it down? Okay, no. Or like, hey, the person that wrote this is no longer here, or you don't like them, or they have nothing to do with, like their name didn't add anything to what you were digesting, or it's just a distraction, or it's like, how can I trust that? Anyway, but these factors kind of come into play as well. And so hence why we're creating resources. Yeah, so there's one other thing I didn't mention. There's like two other things I didn't mention that have a dramatic effect on how it is that Google will rank your pages. So one is if you're violating the rules, like if you're trying to game the system, then if you do it too much, they'll count you. They might just cut you from the whole list. They might count you negative, whatever. Another one is the meta tags. So in the head of the, so Pranav was like, yeah, of course. Why? I don't know why you didn't mention that in the first place. Like, that's one of the first things that it'll look at is like the robotic descript, like how those bots come around and they look at the description of the page. It's like they look for the text that you said describes the page. And then they reinforce that with your H1 and your H2 and less with your H3 and less with your H4 and less with, because that's, lesser. So they also, yeah, if it says WebAssembly 5 times on the page, that's better than it just saying it once. Like, yeah, if it says it 90,000 times, maybe that's but anyway, the meta tags is, so having considered all of that, to Google, it's not going to matter if you categorize if your site URL, if your URL structure was such that these are a set of resources versus these are a set of topics. Like, those two terms are almost interchangeable anyway. We should go off and do the same thing about structuring and categorizing and sub collections irrespective. And the word resources just is a better, easier fit. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Thanks for letting me tell you, all of you, that like, it's something that if people are interested, and maybe even if you're not, maybe that we would start to measure specific keywords and like, how are we doing? Like, did it even make a dent in the world that we wrote this thing? There's some things that you all can go search for now that doesn't have the word layer 5, that doesn't have the word meshery, that just has some things that we talk about. You might find that layer 5 or its projects ranked like number 2 or like number 3 or that's actually pretty cool. Some of you who've been here long enough, you've been invited to have member pages on this site. If you go Google yourself, you might want to wash your hands before you do that, but if you go Google yourself, you might find that page ranks, or that the layer 5 page ranks. And so that's awesome. We should definitely say kind things about you, on the, and unless you're named after a pop star, then you're in trouble. There's nothing we can do for you. But okay, good. So I'll shut up now. Hopefully that helps give everybody, anyway, sorry, that last piece about like tracking ourselves on certain keywords. I think that'd be, to me, it's kind of nice to understand where we are and how far we've come and how well we're doing. Again, it's not a small consideration that Google will say. They'll say that this page, it's really fast, it's very relevant, but the domain authority is it isn't much. So even though there's this other site that doesn't have as relevant of content, a little bit slower, it has so much authority because there's other articles linking to it that so those arrows have weight, those backlinks. And so at some point, like now, all of you should go out and blog about what you've done here. You can do it on your own blog. You can do it on dev.to, or there's a bunch of other places. And that will help with the domain authority. Sure, yes, it does matter if the backlink comes from NewYorkTimes.com versus Lee Calcote's personal blog .sad. And yeah, one has higher weight than the other. They all help, but you'd be surprised how many backlinks Layer5.io has today in some of the places that it has it in. That would be another interesting thing. I don't know if you all are interested, we all should do the meetings that we normally do without Lee haranguing you all, but also maybe do a little bit of a group study on Google Analytics as a tool, or on SEO as a thing. Or maybe we grab a tool. There's a tool out there. There's a bunch of free tools out there that will look over your site, assess it, tell you what keywords and et cetera, where you rank for things. And we might do well to introduce that and begin to kind of understand it together. So unless someone eventually says they don't want to do that, then I might start to try to help us do some of those studies. Because the SEO helps with our longevity, because nobody's looking at our stuff. Eventually, we'll just have to. Eventually, we have to toss in the towel. But people are looking at our stuff, and so it's good. Cool.
So for now, we'll change topics to resources, and from there, we'll look into sub collections and everything. Right. So
Debopriya she reduces like 30 minutes of my talking about 10 seconds. Okay, so we'll just rename topics too. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So we'll move on to the next topic by Yash. Yash has two PRs open right now. So Yash, do you want to talk about it? Present your screen.
Yeah. The first one, let me share my screen. This one, I have changed the call out to this. And here it looks like this in the screen. So I just want a review for the call out. Yeah.
Do others have feedback for Yash?
So, in my opinion, I told him that this overlay, I told him to make it darker, but now that I see it, it's become too dark. So the image is not doing the work here. So we have to think of some other way to like attract people to it. Right now, it looks a little dull, like it's not that attractive, in my opinion.
One technique that might find the middle road of being too light, too dark could be like a radial gradient. So maybe the center is more dark or the center is light. Like I don't know which way you would want to go, but for me, one of the things is that I guess, it can be a great full width call to action on a page that has no other call to action. That can be nice and good. In many other areas, we do just need fairly small call to action, widget size call to actions. And so if there's two versions of this, or to look at how that reduces down. So what does this do in terms of being responsive?
In terms of responsiveness, I think okay, not that responsive. I can make like another component like this smaller version for others, like you suggested for the blog page, right? But here's no space for blog, the call out.
So that call to action, gosh, what's the call to action that we have again? The one that you're working on? Oh, to the handbook.
Handbook.
So, I mean, yeah, there's room. If you scroll down on the blog page, there should be some empty space on the right-hand side. Okay, maybe not on. So it might be that if you go to the single view, if you click on a category, like not one that has a 1, but like the community category, and you scroll down, how many blog posts? Okay, so yeah.
Here we have some space.
Another place that this could be useful is potentially on the resources area, the new resources area, not the topics area, or in a blog post itself. So if you click on She Code Africa, if you click on a blog, let's see, so I think we have a fairly consistent call to action at the bottom of many of these. Let's see. So we have the related blog. That's great, related blog post. It could be that, yeah, I don't know. We probably wouldn't want to mess with that. That's probably pretty good.
You can add it to the Learn.ng page. That has a lot of white space.
We could also add it to the blog page when it's in like mobile view.
Also, while we are on this page, we have to change this. Can you scroll up a little? This part as well.
This part, yeah.
I'll fix that right now. That's my mistake.
We can move that to the green area, like where was that? Another page we have something like written on the I forgot. Yeah, like this, the new members are always welcome. We can move the this part on the green area. It might look good. Just a suggestion.
Oh yeah, got you a subtitle to the. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
If you go to Learn.ng, learning paths basically. You click on that card.
Sorry?
Yeah. And go to any of the courses. Here we have a lot of space, so we can add one call out here as well.
Okay.
Do we have to go for like a rectangular shape for the callout?
No, not necessarily. I don't think so.
Maybe we could do something new and try out other shapes, because we have a lot of callouts. I think we have 3 callouts if I'm not wrong, and all of them look quite similar. So
Especially on the page you are in right now, where you have added the call out at this moment. Can you go to that page? Yeah, this has 3 call outs, one after the other in the same format, so it looks a little too much. So we can remove one from here and add it to the empty spaces. And the community handbook, we can make it smaller. It doesn't have to be like a banner.
Okay. So smaller, I have to small this part and make another component for the learn page, right?
Not another component, this itself.
Yeah,
like,
the smaller one like that. Okay, got it.
And about the design, you can look into the gradient thing if you
Okay.
can.
Okay, I can try that. Okay. So should we move to the next part, next intra-page part, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I saw the error about the active part, because whenever in the previous thing, whenever we choose in the intra page, the active from the TOC would become inactive. So, but in the build, there's an error. And that window is not defined, so I can't figure what's in that.
Which page was that coming from?
The handbook page, from the intra page part.
Oh, I see. And so does that happen when you, okay, if you hover over the map, the new contributor map, the newcomers map?
Yeah.
And so some of those resources directly link to Google Docs. I think the first 2, that's a Google Doc.
Yeah.
So it might have something to do with that SVG. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not from that actually. It's actually from the change that Yash just pushed. But
yeah,
I'm not sure
one.
about. Yeah, I'm not sure about the alternative here. It's a Gatsby issue. Like we have to do something specific for Gatsby. Like over here, it's in JavaScript that window.location.pathname. There's some problem with using window. So it requires some research. I asked him to present here if somebody knew what, if anyone knew what the solution is, but I'm not sure.
Wait, so I kind of missed. So Aditya, are you looking for more commentary here, or do you think that you
Yeah,
guys...
so this requires a little bit of research, or if anyone is aware about what the issue is here, it's a Gatsby issue. The Gatsby is not like allowing us to use window as a reference here. So yeah.
Do we know who is anybody who's looking into this, or is this going to?
Yes, you can try using the window.location.pathname inside a use callback function. I think that might solve the issue. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, where? Sorry again. Can you repeat? I didn't come. Can you repeat again? Where?
You can declare a variable which stores the value that window.location.partName provides. And you can try calling the window object inside a use callback function. I think that this might fix the issue.
Yeah, that actually might work because this is because Gatsby is having a trouble rendering it server side like it's written over there. So using a callback might help.
Yeah, you can also look at the component TOC pagination. There, I have also used it. Wait, let me share the link in the chat. You can look at the component and try implementing in a similar way, and this might fix the issue.
Can you share the link of your?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Yeah.
All right. So Yash, if you have any other problem, you can probably get in touch with Tothagata. He'll help you out. Or
I
if
will
it
get in
still
touch.
persists, just like write to one of us. We'll continue to look into it.
Okay. I will try again. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have anything else to talk about?
Oh, I think it's yeah.
So the next topic is Tothagata yourself. We named the Get Nighthawk to Nighthawk. Wanna talk about it? Oh, I'm so sorry. I think the next topic is by Pranav.
Yeah, actually, I was facing some issue with the responsiveness of a widget. So let me share my screen and then I'll ask. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, the problem is coming in this widget. Actually, when the screen size is decreased, then this layer 5 logo is like shrinked a lot and it doesn't look good. So I'm like, I just have to solve this problem, not able to do it.
Can you go to the blog page on your site?
Blog, yeah.
I think you have it open already. The second time.
Actually, there is.
Just go to Layer 5 website.
Yeah.
So you can probably look at the code for this and try to see if that helps.
Yeah, actually, I've already like seen the CSS which is given for this widget as well, and I like find out that both of them are almost similar. But I feel that the problem is coming because like over here there's a lot of space. Like on the right side there's extra space because of which when I decrease the size, it doesn't affect the widget. But on this one, like there isn't any space. So whenever I just change the screen size, the length or the width of the widget changes at every point. Because of which the layer 5 logo is also changing. So I just have to figure out why this is happening.
Pranav, are you using with 100% for this entire callout? This widget? Yeah, that might be the problem. That's why it's like, it might help if you give it a fixed width.
Okay.
So that's why, like, since the entire callout is shrinking, the logo is shrinking along with it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
happening because the width is at 100%. So if you give it a specific width, it might solve the problem.
Okay, okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. So the next topic is by Deepak. Deepak, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is visible.
Almost. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Let me notice that. So I was looking contributing.md. So while I was like cloning the project for myself, I had some issues. So also like the project layout and the structuring looked a bit unfamiliar, like it didn't look quite great at that time. So I thought about changing it. So made a couple of changes. Like I spent almost 1 day of my times to like get through the process. Like I had some issues with make, and then I had some issues with DCO, which I had like so I had some issues with DCO. So got discussed with like Shubham and uh, this maybe Aditya was also there. So yeah, I changed it and added some navigation system to contributing.md file. Changed a bit of like how the project was structured, added some sections, fixed some links and stuff, and then gave a bit a much better explanation of setting up a local development environment. And yeah, this is it. So I would like everybody to see and like suggest something. Yeah.
Deepak, did you end up retaining? Oh, okay, yep, you got some of those images in there. Nice. Yeah.
And
Nice.
also like I changed the tags, like changed some into H1 H2 because they sort of look much better than having H3 and H4. So yeah, added them. And this thing, the previous version of the dev setup was like having just those normal tags. So sort of I added this so that it is quite easy for others to like just simply copy out and like this icon over here, so people can copy and just the process could be much better. Added some resources, like if you're on a Windows environment, then it is highly recommended that you install the Vessel and then install Gatsby on WSL, so to ease out the process. That's it. Yeah.
Boy, it's really hard to argue with this one. Like, oh, hey, there is a table of contents on the page too. So that's, yeah. And there's only so much you can do in Markdown, but great. Like, hey, before you get started, nice. And the community and the newcomers guide. By the way, the newcomers guide, is that a link to a Google Doc? I think it's okay if it is.
No.
Oh, okay.
Because this was suggested to me on the I guess alpha. Sorry, I'm calling it alpha. I don't. Aditya suggested me to Aditya. Someone suggested me Aditya or Shubham or
Yeah.
Aditya or Shubham. One of the two guys suggested me to change it.
I think yeah, between the two, it's probably better to point to the site. It doesn't hurt to point to the doc, but yeah, the site is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice.
And also like I shifted the concepts side of to a little later part because like I didn't feel like it to be on the top, so just shifted it to a bit later part of the markdown. That's it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Some of what's in the handbook has been pulled from here, so there might be a little bit of duplication between the two. Not that we need to deduplicate that. That's fine. I just, but it is kind of a point of curiosity that, like, oh, I think the way, like, I did, like, if you take something like the badges, for example, what should be articulated in the community handbook is, what are the badges? What do they signify? When should someone have one? When should one be removed? Or whereas what's in here is probably more about the fact that, yeah, there are badges, kind of here's quickly what they mean, but then here's the instructions to add or remove, like here's the catalog of them. And so yeah, it's okay that we're.
Yeah, otherwise, like, I could do that, but yeah, I could do that, but I thought, like, this is just for, like, the for contributors to know, so they are just, like, they just want to know about the badges and add them. But there could be a different file wherein we could dedicatedly, like, go on a bit descriptive mode about what these badges are and how one could get them.
Totally makes sense. That's good.
So I'll stop sharing, I guess.
Nice work.
Thank you.
It
Nice
looks
work.
really clean now. So the next topic is by Tothagata. You wanna talk about it?
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen.
You have two topics. You can go ahead and talk about both of them.
Yeah. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, so in this issue, I had to remove the get from the description of the project and replace the old logo with the new logo. But okay. The logos are already replaced with the new one, but I have some doubt regarding renaming the Get Nighthawk to Nighthawk. There are few portion in the project where renaming doesn't make sense at all. In this section, do I need to rename this Get Nighthawk to Nighthawk?
It's not an easy thing to rewrite either. It's kind of funny because like if you look at underneath the logo on this page, the subtitle says the easiest way to get started with Nighthawk. It's like, wait, Nighthawk is the easiest way to get started with Nighthawk. Okay. What?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of like, it's a good call out on your part. If you, to help you along and actually empower you to write something that makes more sense, here recently, just late last week, I think, on Layer5.io/projects/Nighthawk, that page has been mostly rewritten in accordance with like melding the two. So if you use that page as reference, I think you'll have a lot more success with trying to rewrite this, trying to.
Okay. I will check that page.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's not an easy, it's good to do exactly what you're doing, which is calling for help.
Okay. So for the next issue. Okay, this one is on SMP repo. It was regarding the schema. Yeah, schema for the Okay, do I need to replace the sponsors here?
Yeah, no, you could list the parent organization as the CNCF, but the sponsor as layer 5 makes sense.
Yeah, and I have to remove all the others, right? Like the other sponsors that are I have mentioned. Let me see.
Oh,
yeah,
they're not doing nearly as much as layer 5 is. Like, and I don't know the structure of. I wouldn't bother with it. Like, we're just gonna waste time trying to figure it out. And it would be wonderful if Intel comes over and says, hey, we're not listed if they think it's important enough that they're not listed as a sponsor there. Great, then let's add them. But otherwise, like, I don't want to, I don't know if the data wiki or Wikidata will count negatively if there's 15 sponsors, or I don't know. But.
Okay. I will make the changes that were suggested here with the parent organization and create a new and push it into the report. Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so Deepak, you had another topic regarding the Nighthawk itself, Nighthawk logo. Do you want to discuss this?
Yeah, I went through the doc, I went through the readme page, and like there's only one thing, like for to replace the image, we just need to add the get part in the tag. Like it's actually Nighthawk right now, but we just need to add get over there, and I guess that would solve the issue. But I'd like to like go through the readme page and like structure it too. So I'll do that.
You can do that, or you can create an issue, whatever suits you best.
Yeah, I'll create an issue so that it is like easier to detect what has been changed. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have Aditya about versioning the doc.
Yeah, so just little updates. Debopriya, could you just go to the PR?
Yeah.
It's the link is there. Not that, the one. Okay. Yeah, so I have done some changes to this. Like I have, like me and Lee and I, we were talking about, like we got on a call last day. So I have changed the structuring of it, and though I have not pushed the changes, I had practicals going on. So yeah, so basically this will just be restructured, and the previous versions will just have a static HTML site, while the new one, while the latest version would keep getting updated. Yeah, so I just need to push some of those changes, and we can talk about that in the next call. So I don't have a lot of updates on this.
Okay, then we can talk about this in the next call. Maybe by then you'll finish doing whatever you talked about. Since we are already over time, should we move this to the next call?
Sounds good.
Okay. So that's it for today, I guess.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll take that. I'm taking a couple of action items away. And so we'll take that poll about, does anybody, like, just quickly, since you all are on the call, does anybody want to do further study about Google Analytics and SEO? Or is that kind of a distraction from working on code?
I think I'd really appreciate, like I want to know more about it, because I think like it would not be much of a headache for me to like go through it. Like it is a bit different from the general text, so would like to learn more.
No, good deal. Okay. And it's okay to say no, by the way, for anyone else, like it's fine. Is anybody else interested in that? Or should we keep it really short if we do? Nice. And if you don't vote, you forfeit your opinion later. So cool. Well, it's great to have Debopriya hosting today. Thanks for that, Debopriya. Yeah. It was nice to see everybody. Debopriya, thanks a bunch. See some of you in the Wasm Filters call, I guess. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.